All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here today for today's presentation. For today's presentation, we have Jill Elliott, the Executive Director from the Fargo Housing, and they are going to be discussing Section 8. So I will turn it over to you, Jill.
Hi, this is Fargo Housing. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Great. Are you ready for us already, Cheryl?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, great. And you can see our screen?
Yep, we have your website on the screen right now.
Okay, wonderful. So welcome everybody. It's good to see you. I hope you can understand me with my mask, can you? Otherwise, I think we'll distance a little better. My name is Jill Elliott. I'm with the Fargo Housing Authority. I've been here a few decades, and I have 3 wonderful team members, Kirsten, Tanya, and James, and they will be doing sections of our program today. Just as a review, every community in North Dakota has a housing authority. If you don't know who your housing authority is, you can call us, you can call Dwight, who's our chair for the housing authorities. There's about 38 of them though right now in North Dakota, and they all have similar programs to what we have. And we can also do something called portability, where the Fargo HRA sends people out to different communities. So there's a lot of collaboration that the housing authorities do together in order to cover all parts of the state. Also, Cheryl, if anyone wants me to send out the list of housing authorities and who to contact, I could do that after this, if you have information that you send out on your mailing list.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, because like Cass County Housing Authority, which is West Fargo, I think you guys heard from Derek most recently. They do several counties, like maybe 10 or 11 counties out in the western part of the state. So I'll send that out. It's got all the information, but most of them should have programs similar to ours. It would be just the size. I'm going to briefly go over what the housing authority has, and then Kirsten will have a more interesting demonstration that shows pictures and some of it on the website. We just redid it and we're so thrilled because we had a very, very archaic website, and this one's got really cool things and great accessibility features. You know, it's just a great living website that she updates all the time. And after this, we will be updating to have our inspection protocol on the website too, because we understand many of you are interested in that. Cheryl, do you usually do questions at the end? Or how does your team like to do it?
When you take a break, we'll have Kylie read you the questions from the chat, and that way, as you're going, we're kind of on the same page.
Okay, so that sounds great. So just briefly, Fargo Housing Authority, we have in the vicinity of about 1,800 vouchers, which means that they go out into the community, into the country actually, because they can go portable anywhere in the country. And we subsidize, our clients pay 30% of their income to the landlord, and we pay the remainder up to a fair market rent or a payment standard. We have our payment standards set for 2021. Our utility allowances, those move every year. Those are always different, where they go up a little bit. Subsidy standards, all of those types of things. Right now, we have our voucher wait list closed. Unfortunately, we had, when people would call, we'd say, yeah, our waiting list is about 7 years. You know, that doesn't make people hopeful. So this is the second time in 40 years I know that we've closed it, but it just wasn't kind to have people have to wait that long. So we did close it. We went from about 4,000 households on the wait list to I don't know, maybe in that 2,400 range. So it still isn't real short, but there's just people, we've got lots of people in need. All of the programs are on different parts of the median income for the community. Every community has different income limits and payment standards. So in your community, if you're a landlord interested in renting, or if you're a client, you'd want to look at your housing authority's website or get that information, because they're different in every community. They're all different. Right now, we house at any given time right under about 4,000 people in various kinds of programs. So we have our Section 8. That's what we'll spend most of the time on. You'll hear them called Section 8 vouchers, certificates, project-based vouchers, mainstream vouchers, FUP vouchers, tenant protection vouchers. So they're all kind of the same, have a little bit of a different role, and veterans vouchers. But basically, we're helping someone live in a private unit of their choice, where they can choose all the amenities they want, or garages, those things that are important to them, rather than, for example, in our public housing that was built, we have like a 22-story high-rise called the Lashkowitz high-rise. That was built in 70. And so when that was built, the idea was it's going to be safe, and it's going to be, that's about it, safe and affordable. And it was built with cinder block, and we couldn't have carpet. We couldn't have, wallpaper was very frivolous. You know, all of those kinds of things. Units were 306 square feet. That isn't the case of affordable housing anymore. Now we want to be sure that affordable housing fits in with everyone else's housing, with market housing, that you would want to live there. So we have over 1,800 vouchers. We are in the process of closing our high rise. At the end of 2021, we're doing relocation vouchers with all of those clients, where we give them a voucher. We have a mover that will move them, application fees, we pay that, and we pay relocation fees. And those will be now another 247. So we'll have over 2,000 vouchers in the community. A couple of the special programs that are fairly new, and ones that I think this group would be particularly interested, is the mainstream vouchers. Those are targeted at folks under 62, risk of institutionalization or coming out of nursing homes, a disabled member in the family. Our issue right now is that we need to go through our entire wait list and find every family that has a disabled member and find those mainstream families and offer them. So I know people have been frustrated because our wait list closed for that. Otherwise, we were pretty quick at housing our mainstream folks, but I'm thinking that would be a program you're particularly interested in. The other would be our homeless programs, where they are through the continuum of care. They go through the CARES protocol with the vulnerability index, which is kind of simply who would die on the street first. And there's a whole system that they go through, grade them. Those are offered, those folks are triaged and offered housing first. So any of those programs you want to know more about, we'll be happy to talk about at the end. I think you're particularly interested in inspections and some other things, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. We also have 100 veterans vouchers. Those are all over the state. They go all over the state besides just Fargo. And family unification is a new one that we've got 75 of now. That we must work with, and when I say must, it's just how HUD sets it up. Whatever your social services child protection agency is, they refer families to us, and they're either reuniting those families or keeping them together you know, where housing could enable that family to stay together, or they've come back from treatment, or any number of reasons that we're reunifying families. The other group that program works for is our kids aging out of foster care that are 18 to 26 who don't have anyone that's going to help them. And we help them with housing. And then a program called Path of North Dakota, at least in our community, supplies the supportive services for those kids. So there's some really nice new programming out of HUD. I think they said that there will be one more mainstream increment. I know Stutzman County has a big mainstream program. Maybe might not. I'm not sure who all has them, but it's a really great program. So check with your community. I think we will go to Kirsten now, and she's going to go through a website that'll show a lot more, in a little more interesting manner. And then we'll go to James and Tanya for inspections. Any questions on those kind of down and dirty things?
There doesn't appear to be at this time.
Awesome, thank you.
Wonderful. So I'm going to take my mask off just so you can hear me okay. So my name is Kirsten, and I'm super excited because I don't always get to show off the website. So it's really fun to do that. I'm just going to move this. So there were a couple of different reasons we decided to redo our website, but a big one was accessibility to clients. So that's both our tenants and then landlords who are hoping to participate in programs like Section 8. So I'll take you to our homepage. One of the biggest things, of course, with that was accessibility. So I'll first show you. Our team got together and figured out our top, 6 must be languages, and right up in the top right corner, you can click on a button here and it'll translate every page to those top 6 languages. So I'll show you on our home screen. And I'll bring it back to English because I can't read Arabic. But it also, we put our application on our website, which was another big accessibility push. So it's integrated right into the website. So if you do end up translating the page, I'll go back to Arabic. The application translates as well. So this is one of my favorite parts of the website. Having the applications on through a third-party HIPAA compliant software is also a really, really big plus as far as accessibility. A lot of our folks don't necessarily have transportation to get down to our office. And then if you look at the bottom right corner, we have installed in our site a little widget. I think that's what they're called. And this one is through UserWay. So it's available to anybody. We use WordPress for our website, but this has a ton of different options for a variety of different needs that might be met. We have keyboard navigation, a screen reader, and it goes in different speeds too. You can change the contrast for folks who might be colorblind, text spacing, bigger text for those who might need that to be able to see it, dyslexia friendly, and let's see, it will show where your cursor is, and then if there are any hyperlinks on the page, it will just draw attention to those.
The screen reader reads it.
Yeah, so the screen reader reads it. I could definitely try to. So of course you can do it at different speeds, but this is a big one if anybody might be blind or have a different disability that they would need help looking at what's on the page. Read fast, slow, and then read normal. So it is a great tool to accommodate just a variety of different needs that folks might have. And then like Jill mentioned, I'll go back to our homepage so you can see our lovely clients. A big push, it kind of ties into accessibility a little bit, was capturing our residents and who they are as people in our community, because I think sometimes folks, especially those who maybe aren't clients of ours, have a certain idea of what public housing or what vouchers means and who has those. And so a really important part was to capture our clients and put those who are comfortable with it on our website. So any photos that you see of people are our clients on our website. And that was a really big win for us. Another thing that we tried to do as far as accessibility was kind of form the website in a way that would be organic to somebody who isn't necessarily familiar with our programs. So as soon as they get on the website, they see these questions, burning questions that they might have, especially if they're in a housing crisis. And then wherever they are, it's language that is hopefully comforting to them and very solution oriented. So it's formatted a little differently than traditional websites where you have a drop down here up at the top, but we have this huge footer with every single page that's on our website listed. So I'll bring you now to our voucher page, because I know you guys are most interested in that. As Jill mentioned, we are really excited to expand on some of this information. She touched on portability. So we outline that process on kind of a broad level. Of course, there's a lot more information, but there's a contact and sort of what the process means to somebody who might be getting started there. And then we do have a section on landlords and inspections. The wonderful James and Tanya will go through that in a little more detail, but in the future, we're excited to add in some of what, we have an overview of what James, for instance, our inspector would be looking at, but hopefully more detail of, okay, what does the roof need to look like? We're looking at the roof, but what kind of condition should it be in? We also have another page that a big push in making our website very, very user-friendly was to include a lot of questions. So we have a couple different pages on landlords. This is a landlord specific page. It goes through the process of how to become a landlord with us, what that means to somebody who's interested in becoming a participating landlord. Here's that checklist again. And then you can click on this one, and this just provides some of those questions that folks might have. And they're pretty general, but I would guess that they would apply to most communities. These, of course, are just specific to us, but if you need inspiration or have any questions, you can always look at these for your community. So I think that's, do you have anything to add, Jill?
I don't think so.
Wonderful.
Unless they have questions at this point, but.
Does anybody have any questions?
Who designed the website? It's amazing.
Ah, yay. We think so too. So we partnered with a company called Toolbox Creative. Gosh, that made my week. And they're based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. We, I believe a client of ours had designed our original website. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So back in the 90s, probably. Yeah. And so it served our purpose, but we knew that we needed to update it so that we could reach our clients better. This particular organization, Toolbox Creative, had partnered with Housing Catalyst in Fort Collins. They're the Fort Collins Housing Authority, and had redone their website and actually had also gone through a rebranding with them. And we fell in love with the user accessibility of the website and the tone that it communicated as well. So we reached out to them. They weren't local and transparently weren't the least expensive, but it was just a joyful process. They came to our organization up in Fargo and asked what we wanted, what our staff wanted to see on the website, and then spent a lot of time trying to understand the website from a client's perspective. Often, as I'm sure many people on this call are familiar with, like HUD speak is just so overwhelming for somebody who might already be going through a very difficult situation. So they did such a good job of creating a website that is on every single page, very informative, but not overwhelming. So I highly recommend them if you're interested in taking on a website project.
They would like to know how you spell that.
Yeah, so it's just Toolbox Creative or Creative Toolbox. Toolbox Creative, I think. So it's just Toolbox, Toolbox, and then Creative. And I can send you, Cheryl, the website, their website link, if folks are interested and if you want to pass that on.
Yep, we can send that out with everybody with the recording. So.
Great, yeah. Yeah, they're great. They're also partnering with, what is the Housing Authority in Billings? Billings Billings Housing Authority to redo their website, and they partnered with Colorado NARO to put together a media package for them. So they're really familiar with housing, and also took on some different projects in building our website to kind of put in their portfolio of services that they can offer to other people. So super familiar with housing, which we didn't experience with some of the other website branding places that we'd interviewed before we took on this project. But any other questions?
Not now, not right now.
Okay, great. I will pass it off to James and Tanya.
I'll sneak through. Yep. Oh yeah. Hello everyone, I'm Tanya.
And I'm James.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the PowerPoint for everyone.
Do you want to take off your mask?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let James go through this because he is our inspector that is out in the field every day. I'm just his behind the scenes gal.
No, she's very helpful, really. Where are we going next?
All right.
Okay, I'm going to make this brief. I'll kind of explain how I start out. I do initial inspections, like before the resident moves in. Then I do annual inspections once a year. And I also do special inspections for whether a resident or a landlord has a concern, if something isn't fixed or something's getting damaged, that sort of thing. Tanya schedules all my annuals. I schedule all my initials. So when I get to the unit, of course, I check the roof and the exterior foundation, the sidewalks for trip hazards. I do not fail like a security buzzer door that doesn't work because most units have a deadbolt, so their units are secured. So any kind of trip hazard, excess debris, that sort of thing on the outside can be an issue, but rarely is actually. I have had a few chimneys, but they've all changed with the current modern chimneys, not the old brick ones. So, and let's go on into like when I go into the common areas. I would check like the hallways, the outlets, the lighting, the exit signs, the laundry rooms, make sure there's no trip hazards with carpet being damaged, Make sure the elevators are working if they're there. Make sure the fire extinguishers are dated properly. They need to be inspected once a year if the landlord does provide them for the hallways. And that's about it for the common areas. Then when I go in a unit, I usually start out in the kitchen after I check the front door to make sure it locks and unlocks. And I check the appliances, the stove, fridge, microwave, dishwasher, make sure it's not holding any water. Definitely search for leaks under the sink, any floor trip hazards. If there's any GFI outlets in the kitchen, I test them all to make sure they trip for their safety. And then I would head over into the living room area and check the windows to make they're tight, make sure they lock. Any floor trip hazards, if there's an air conditioner, it works. Make sure the balcony door locks and that the balcony is safe. Make sure the railings aren't loose, that sort of thing. And again, check all the outlets. And I go to the hallway, and I usually, that's where the electrical panel is. I always try to make sure that all the breakers are covered. The smoke detector sound, there's no trip hazards, and the outlets all have covers and the outlets work, of course. Then in the bathroom, I would check the sink, of course, for leaks and to make sure hot and cold water, the toilet flushes, the tub drains, again, trip hazards. Any kind of structural, I should say, also for the kitchen or the bathroom, if the cupboards are broke or if the sink is cracked, that kind of could be a cut hazard, that sort of thing. And then again, GF outlets in the bathroom have to trip when they are tested. And then in the bedrooms, windows, make sure they lock and open for an egress. And I check for trip hazards, smoke detectors, which are required in Fargo, but not in West Fargo. And I check again, trip hazards, outlets. If there's a ceiling fan, it has to work. And make sure all the doors in the unit open and close properly. And then, of course, just in general, the lighting, the working doors, and sometimes housekeeping. If the unit can't be cleaned within a 2-hour radius or 2-hour period, I will fail it, and they will have 24 hours to get that cleaned up. And that does apply to like excess debris on the outside of the unit also. So the general rule that we have is if it's there, it just simply should work. And we do have a pass or a fail status. If it fails, we will inform the landlord with a letter telling them what the problem is, and they will have sometimes, like I said, 24 hours. It's not very common. Fire alarms and housekeeping are the two for sure are 24-hour. If they pass and I find something I'm not comfortable with, I will contact the landlord and let them know what I'm concerned about, but it will probably pass, not fail. It wouldn't be anything life-threatening. Any questions? Yeah, generally, I should say, I'm sorry, with the normal fail, they generally have 30 days to fix the infraction.
There are a couple questions. Is a landlord required to provide carbon monoxide detectors?
Not in North Dakota, but they are required by law in Minnesota.
And then, so all the windows in an inspection need to open, even section 8?
Yep.
I know that sounds like a dumb question, but I had a landlord who nailed some windows shut.
Well, that is tolerable if there's another egress out of that room. That can be done. And also, if there's a hoarding situation, that is kind of a gray area for me, but if they usually know the rules, there has to be a 3-foot path to every egress so that the ambulance can get in or they can get out in case of emergency. And most of them probably usually know that rule.
Will the tenant have 30 days to rectify if it fails inspection?
It depends on if it's the tenant's fault or the landlord's fault. The landlord will have 30 days to rectify the problem if it's a broken sink or a structural thing in the apartment.
I'm going to add to this one. Usually I will since I send out all letters to landlords and tenants, I will send one out about 10 days 10 business days after the first fail is when we'll come back and check to see if progress has been made. And if it hasn't, we fail again, and I will send out another letter. So we will go up to 30 days. That way there's a little bit of wiggle room for us.
Yep. And if worse comes to worse and it's something that's life-threatening and doesn't get fixed in 30 days, we then abate the unit, which means we will not pay the rent on it anymore. And that rarely happens. But then that just puts the tenant usually in a tough situation to find another unit and come up with a deposit and that stuff. So we try to avoid that at all costs.
So kind of a follow-up question to that. If furniture is blocking a window, such as a bed and bed frame, would that fail for housekeeping 30 days?
That'd be an egress issue. They need to be able to get out. Yeah, you can't block your egresses.
If the person is a hoarder, does the unit fail? You kind of touched on.
No, it doesn't. It depends on what kind of hoarder. I've seen several different kinds. One lady was just furniture. Another lady was paper, believe it or not, and she was amazing. I asked her where a bill was from June of 1988. She knew exactly what pile and where it was. But she too then had that 3-foot path to the balcony, to the window. But if it's food and a health hazard, that's a different situation, then I will fail it. But if it's just stuff and they have, safe exits, I don't fail it. That's another gray area that I've been working with some local health officials on that to try to enforce that a little bit more. But it's if they're of sound mind and they don't have to let me in to really do anything.
The apartment is not the only thing you inspect, right? Such as entry and halls, stairs to the building, and what if these fail?
Then I would just, it wouldn't bother the tenant, the landlord would be responsible then to fix those issues. And I even sometimes do a garage. If there's a hazard, if the door's hanging there ready to fall and they have small children around that could fall and hurt them. Or I had one where the water was leaking through the roof onto a live outlet, which was a huge fire hazard. So every once in a while I'll get a garage too.
Can a tenant call you if they have concerns with their landlord not taking care of certain issues such as mold?
Absolutely. I give every one of my clients my card with my phone number and email, and they can contact me anytime. Would you like my email?
Sure.
It's james.t@fargohousing.org.
And I can pass all the information to Cheryl as well.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Mold is a challenging issue. There are no standards of what is acceptable really is there. Who would enforce a mold issue in Fargo?
There wouldn't be anyone in Fargo because I am not mold certified, even though I know what mold is. I think it's the Department of Labor in North Dakota that you would contact. And I believe they're in Bismarck. You could also, I've had some people call this the health department in Fargo here, and they might, sometimes they do go out. They're just very overwhelmed. I know that they're short-staffed and they pick and choose their battles. But I do fail for mold if I see it, if it's physically there, and if they have a doctor's excuse saying they're having upper respiratory problems or such as that, we have a little more power to back up our findings.
I'll add on one thing for like our initials that we do. We usually tell not only our clients, but our landlords that if they're just getting onto our program and their initial inspection doesn't pass, we're not paying for that unit then. So it's always best not to sign a lease until their inspection has passed with us. Otherwise, it's at their own risk.
Can I tell them to sign pending housing authority approval?
Yep, or sign pending housing authority approval.
That seems to be all the questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, you can call me anytime.
Oh, here's one more question. Does each housing authority follow same standards?
Yes. I'm actually using a tablet now, and I enter the information into the tablet, and it's going to be universal for everyone in the United States is going to have to follow the same protocol.
For that 24-hour fail, you'll either hear from James or myself. We'll call and let you know what has failed and that you have 24 hours and when James will be back out. James doesn't always have time while he's out in the field, so usually you'll hear from me on that time.
Sometimes they can send pictures too, can't they?
Yep, our inspection now has picture ability. Yay.
If a place passed inspection and does not, and we withhold payment, does the tenant have to pay all of the rent then, including HAP's amount?
Very good question.
Well,
I'm not quite sure I understand that. If it passes, if it doesn't pass, you mean?
If it doesn't pass and we abate, they can't collect it from the tenant.
Right.
For that month, but we only abate a month before.
Yeah, if we abate it, then we don't, you can't collect it from the tenant.
That portion.
That portion.
If it passed at first and does not pass during a recert.
But you give them several
we give
warnings that it will be abated. I mean, it's usually well over 30 days before we abate.
Depending on the situation. So if it fails for the first year out after our initial, and it fails because of like an infestation of cockroaches, that's what we've been getting lately. After the 30 days, then we'll try to work with the landlord and the tenant to see what the issues are, or if the landlord has proof that pest control has been out there several times, if they can give us that paperwork so we can kind of work with the Section 8 ladies or gentlemen to find out what the best solution would be.
Or if it's peeling paint outside,
Yep.
You know, you give them till when conditions
get better. Yeah.
Are warm enough to paint outside.
I know an issue has been like backlog of getting doors or some appliances just because of COVID. We understand that, but you need to provide proof that you bought the item or the item is backlogged so that we can put it within our records as well.
Did that answer your question?
What software do you use on your inspections? Do you use an iPad or some other device?
Yeah, an Apple iPad.
And we use software that HUD has provided.
Yep.
And is it BP?
UPC or US or UPSC?
It's Universal Physical Condition Standards.
Dash V is it?
Dash
for
V
vouchers?
for voucher.
It's not quite as bad.
So it's a UPCS
as fussy as it is for public
inspector is what I am now. Yeah.
I have a lady with health issues and the windows have black mold as they are old windows. If I have talked to the landlord and nothing changes, who pays the rent in full?
Well, it would have to go through the failing process and then be abated. So she would probably end up having to move if they're not willing to replace the windows. And at times, some landlords will do that if they don't want to keep the tenant there. Instead of non-renewing them, they want them out, they will take that route. Is that it?
That appears to be it.
Okay.
We'll have,
Well, I hope that was helpful.
we'll have Jill come back for y'all.
Thank you. I just want to put a shout out to this team, to the James and Tanya team. James, I wish I would have finished this inspection with, he dresses up as Thor for our children for their What Home Means to Me calendar contest. So the children that make calendars and they draw pictures of what home means to them. And we have a big celebration. We've had a national winner 2 years. We have a regional winner this year, and they haven't announced the national, but for their prizes, then James has this great Thor costume. And of course he looks just like Thor. So it's pretty fun. Maybe I'll have to send that picture out too, just as a, to you, Cheryl. So anything else for any of our team?
Jill, do you want to go in a little bit more in depth on your qualifications for the Section 8?
So there's, sure. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
We've had some questions about college students, can they qualify and things like that. And then if you want to talk a little bit about portability also.
Okay. So of course there are national standards to be eligible, and those are the income eligibility. And then it's pretty much anything. All housing authorities, let's go back to our preferences first. Mm-hmm. All housing authorities have the ability to make their local preferences. So this has our preferences. Number one, you have to be income eligible. And these are the top guidelines here. We actually, and that's at 50% of median income. Actually, 75% of our folks have to be at 30%. So it's much, you know, and the majority of folks, we have no problem getting 75% of our folks under 30% of median income. After that, there is a certain screening that we do as far as background. And we do those real basic caveats of violent, drug-related activity, producing meth and selling it, lifetime sex offender. And then it is up to the landlords to do their additional screening of what they can live with. And we pretty much tell them, if we know of anything and they ask us, we will tell them. But we do that basic screening for vouchers. And typically it's drug or violent related. This doesn't mean drug paraphernalia. It doesn't mean shoplifting. It means where it would be someone that would be very, could be harmful to your community. Then we look at preferences. Our top preference are money follows the person. And I think it is not on here simply because we had thought it sunsetted and we didn't put it back on. For New Horizons Manor, which has vouchers, it's absolutely their top preference.
So local victims of domestic violence, and those are referred or screened for us from like Rape and Abuse Crisis Center. Those residing in Cass or Clay County at the time of application. Now they can move away, but it's a big game for people nationwide to search or shop housing authority wait list. And if they can get on a wait list and they live in California where the list is 10 years long and they can get in one of our small communities, they will do it. And then port out, maybe live there a year and port out and take that voucher. And then that small community in North Dakota pays for someone out in California for the rest of their life. It's kind of a, it's just kind of a difficult situation. So this is just a preference. We can't tell people they can't apply. They absolutely can. And that's a preference. And of course, those big major caveats. Households with minor children, households with any kind of disability, households that are near elderly, and then our VASH veterans. Different programs like Mainstream have additional preferences. And that's moving out of institutionalization, a disabled member in the family, about to be, in fear of homelessness. Those types of things. VASH, of course, is that they have veteran status. FUP, we talked about that's a direct referral from a different program. Students are always an issue, and it's a very complicated, oh gosh, there's about 10 steps for students. I think I will send that out to you. You can have an older student who is not on anyone's tax return and has minors that we can house. A regular student that's on their own, they are not eligible for Section 8 housing. But I think I will attach that one too. We should write all of these down because the student rule is quite complicated. And it involves quite a few steps. Cheryl, I think you said one other item. What was it?
That was the porting, and you covered that part of it.
Did I? Oh, and porting. Yeah, porting. Oh goodness, especially our small North Dakota housing authorities. I remember a director calling me. She said, Jill, I have put my phone in my desk drawer. It is ringing off the hook, and it was people from California, all over that were getting on their wait list. And you do have to move to that community at least for a year, but then you can port out and have that voucher the rest of your life as long as you need it. Well, obviously, oh gosh, a California 1-bedroom, probably $2,800. And here in our community, our average HAP, our payment standard might be $660, but our average HAP is $378. HUD says they'll make us whole at the end of a year, which really ends up to be into almost 2 years, and they don't always, where they will pay the difference between what our average HAP is and 10%. So yeah, portability, it's great for people who want to move and, get jobs someplace else, that type of thing. But portability, if someone wants to port, they're eligible. We send it to the other housing authority. The client has 90 to 120 days to find their unit. And then that housing authority either absorbs them or just bills the original housing authority.
We have a couple questions. If you deny based off of criminal conviction, do you allow for someone to present mitigating circumstances such as treatment programs, working on goals and achieving those goals? How does someone go about presenting those circumstances if you do allow it?
Yeah, great question. In fact, that should be on this. folks that get federal or subsidized housing have probably more rights and review processes than any other client. So in your initial, if you are an applicant, there's, in fact, we don't even say you're denied anymore. We say it, do we say it appears
To be ineligible.
you know that you're ineligible due to, and then we'll say whatever. We would like to visit with you about it. And we've got a team that meets with that person and as many people as they want to bring in. Sometimes we've had 10 people come in and advocate for a person. Certainly, we use all kinds of things. If they've been through treatment, if they've done their time, you know, all those kinds of things. Any advocate, we'll be working with them. One of our preferences is like if they're working with the Lifetime Navigators program, where we'll give case management. Case management means a lot to us if someone will do that. So absolutely. We're pretty fair about it. We really want to house people. So we really try to get people in instead of, you know, we try to think of reasons why we should house them instead of reasons why we shouldn't. If someone gets terminated, same thing. We have an informal review hearing process, and that is a third party. It isn't us. They can bring as many people in as they want, and then there's just a process. The housing authority states, you know, this was the reason for the termination. And then that person has, you know, as many advocates, legal aid or whatever. And right now we have like Sedka is one of our hearing officers, and then another housing authority, Cass County, is our other hearing officer. Actually, we've used any one of the other housing authorities just because HUD rules are so difficult that it's hard to know, but there's lots of processes. If our hearing officer agrees with us and says, yes, we won't take them or will be terminated, that doesn't mean they can't, they still have that court to go to. We do not. We do live with whatever the housing officer, you know, decides.
What if a person has a lease through housing while waiting for the Section 8 application? Then they get approved for Section 8, but their lease is not up. Do they still need to pay for rent the remainder of the lease?
So that's not up to us. That's always a tough thing, and it happens constantly, that their offer for rental assistance, Section 8, comes through and they are currently in a lease. If they want to lease at that property again, we certainly will ask, would you write us a new lease that will run a year or whatever. If they want, we don't want people to break their leases. They do have an option to turn it down once, don't they? Just once.
To go to the bottom one.
Yeah, to go to the bottom, but that's always an issue. And then it's really up to the landlord. If someone says, I got Section 8 housing, this unit isn't big enough for me anymore, or I need a garage or whatever, will you please rescind my lease? That's up to the landlord. That isn't up to us. You know, we used to turn down people because we didn't want them to break a lease, and then we thought that isn't right either. You know, they may not have enough money to support that lease and they'll end up with an eviction. So it's really up to the client. Do you want to break the lease? Can you work with the landlord to rescind it? Or will you write me a new lease so that I can have my Section 8 here?
Can you talk about the difference between project-based and HCV?
Sure. Housing choice voucher is anywhere, you know, tenant-based, it's anywhere that client wants to go. Project-based is where we have actually either done a competitive proposal where landlords bid to get project-based vouchers within their property, and that's the only place they're good for. Or we can award vouchers that have been awarded, like LIHTC, the low income housing tax credit, without a competitive process. So a housing authority is allowed to project base up to 20% of their HCBs. So we always do kind of specialized housing. We do a fair amount of senior housing. So maybe a new senior project might have, typically we're anywhere from 16 project-based vouchers to 27 project-based vouchers. If it's supportive housing such as Cooper House, it's 42 units out of 42. Everyone will need rental assistance. So we do a supportive housing, we do workforce housing, senior housing. That's typically where our housing authority has decided to project-based vouchers. Folks that will probably always need a subsidy. Does that answer? For us, any of our project-based vouchers, if there's someone in a senior community, they live there a year or they live there 5 years and they decide they want to go someplace else, we always give them an HCB after their lease is done. And then they can go anywhere.
Jill, we've got just a couple minutes left. Did you want to just touch on Cooper House and the amazing things that you guys have been able to do there?
We sure can. Cooper House is a supportive housing project. It was our first housing first facility. Thank you, Kirsten, just bringing it up. Cooper House was the culmination of about 10 years of really working as a community to try and answer a question. What do we do with folks that have been through treatment many, many times or have those dual diagnoses of mental illness and chemical dependency, where it's just really difficult for them to stay in a regular property where they have to maintain sobriety. So we built Cooper House. When you come in the front door at Cooper House, it's one of the continuum of care projects. So we select our clients through the CARES protocols, which I think you've had speak here, haven't you, Cheryl? That they're kind of familiar with.
Yeah, we had Katie Jo. Yeah.
The coordinated entry. Yes, what Katie Jo talked about. So like when you come, what's kind of the magic about Cooper House that I think keeps people housed is they don't have a key to their front door, which sounds really weird, right? You go in through and you check in and there's 24-hour staff right at the door. How that helps our clients is that we screen everyone coming into the building and guests are invited to leave at a certain time. We have found with our homeless populations and just any of our folks kind of what supportive housing is, who gets our folks into trouble is guests where they don't have anything to lose. They come in and they create chaos for our client. They stay overnight, they damage, they do all kinds of things. So we have cameras all over and then they are invited to leave. And then our client, our tenant may yell at us and call us names. Why did you kick my friend out? And then after they walk out the door, they go, oh, thank God. I didn't know I couldn't get rid of him and I can't say it to him, but you can. So that's one of the issues. So this is the community room. Cooper House has, like I said, 24/7 staff. This is free laundry. It's community room again. We have resident councils there. All units were furnished by the community. And it was a really cool thing where people almost competed to get a unit. And what was kind of funny was that, so like Bell Bank was a big one. And all the Bell Bank ones, it was staff that did it. They'd have leather furniture, flat screens and everything. And then there'd be the police. They wanted to furnish a unit. And then there'd be a family, just a just a regular family, and they'd be bringing in, you know, nice secondhand things. But who I really liked was the Train, Trane, and they do air conditioning and whatever. They had a picture of their group that did the Train unit, and I think they have 27 staff. They were so proud to be part of affordable housing, and any one of us would have moved into that Train unit. It was so cute, but there ended up to be too many groups that wanted to be involved in put furniture and TVs and pots and pans, and we've got everything in there. We have done studies with, first we did it on our own, and then we did it with Ide Bailey. And we followed every one of those folks that moved in all of the community cost to keep them unhoused versus what it costs to keep them housed. And it's astronomical, you know, to keep someone in their life is chaotic. They have no place to go. They get picked up. If you don't have a bathroom, where do you urinate? Where do you lay your head? You're always going to be in trouble, right? Because you don't have any place to live your private life. So we did a couple of studies, cost studies, just to show just how amazingly smart, we call it, it's the smart way to do the right thing, that people, maybe not everyone supports supportive housing. Maybe that, you know, in their heart, they don't feel, you know, supportive of it, but in their head, they should. It costs so much less to keep people housed in an appropriate, dignified manner than it does to keep them out on the street. So they do lots of things. There's different community agencies that come in. There's some great art projects that come out of Cooper House, some employment opportunities, but we've kept people housed. Like every year we give them a certificate, and people thought, well, maybe that is insulting to them. We always see them hang it on their wall. That, you know, I haven't had a home for 17 years. I haven't been able to keep a home for 17 years. I've now been at Cooper House 7 years and 14 days. You know, they'll hang that on their wall, and they're pretty proud of it. So it's a perfect no, but it's been pretty wonderful, you know, as a way to house folks that have not been successful in housing. And of course, you know, like I said, they do not need to retain sobriety throughout the day. They do a lot of harm reduction things. We just got meals in there because, of course, that soaks up booze, just those kinds of things. What, you know, make sure we don't get the cooking wine, because it's so high in salt, it can just about stop your kidneys, bath salts, all of those things, drinking mouthwash, just trying to keep those things out of there that would really harm our folks. We have a nurse in there half time, and of course, different service providers.
Okay, well, I think that's probably a great place to end with the positives of what you guys have done. So thank you so much, Jill, and thank you to your staff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. It's always fun to talk to you guys.
Thank you. And for everybody, if you need a certificate, go ahead and contact Marilyn, and she will be sending out the evaluation forms in a few minutes. And thank you, everybody, for participating.
Thanks, Cheryl. Bye-bye.
Bye.